I still remember the moment he found me, standing beside the broken wagon, soaked from the relentless rain, shivering not just from the cold, but from the fear crawling up my spine. I looked up and there he was, a lone cowboy on horseback, staring at me with a mixture of confusion and worry. My voice cracked when I told him, "I'm all alone now." And even now I wonder, was I wrong for trusting him? A complete stranger in the middle of nowhere? Would you have done the same if you were me? It all started earlier that morning, before the storm rolled in. My family and I had been traveling across the open plains, our wagon packed with supplies and hopes for a new beginning. We were far from our Apache homeland, trying to move toward a quieter area where my father believed we'd be safer. I was tired, clutching the small blanket my mother made for me, humming the song she taught me to calm my nerves. The sky felt too still, like something was waiting to break. My father kept glancing at the clouds, muttering that the weather wasn't right. And he was right, because not long after, the wheels hit a deep rut, the wagon tilted, and everything went wrong at once. The horses panicked. The wagon lurched. My parents tried to steady it, but the rain hit suddenly, turning the dirt into heavy mud. As we tried to fix the wheel, a loud crack echoed across the plains. Lightning struck a nearby tree. The horses bolted, and in the chaos, I slipped and fell hard into the mud. When I scrambled up, breathless and disoriented, the wagon had already rolled downhill. I called for my parents, but the wind swallowed my voice. By the time I reached the wagon, it had crashed against a fallen log. The horses had disappeared. And my parents? They were nowhere. I searched until my legs gave out, screaming their names into the storm. But the only answer I got was thunder rumbling overhead. That's when I realized I was alone, completely alone. I tried to keep myself busy, gathering fallen blankets, checking if any food survived the spill, dragging pieces of wood under the wagon to make a little shelter from the rain. My hands trembled the whole time. Every sound, even the rustle of wet grass, made my heart jump. I didn't know if my parents were hurt somewhere, if they would come back, or if I should keep searching. The storm trapped me in place. I was just a girl trying not to fall apart. Hours must have passed, though it felt like days. The rain softened a little, and that's when I heard the soft but steady clop of hooves. At first I froze, not sure if I should run or hide. But then I saw him, a cowboy riding slowly toward me, his hat dripping with rain, his horse moving carefully over the soggy ground. I felt small, vulnerable, unsure of what to say. When he stopped in front of me, he didn't speak right away. He just took in the overturned wagon, the mess scattered around, and then me shivering, covered in mud, eyes swollen from crying. That's when he asked gently, "Where's your family?" And all I could say was, "I'm all alone now." So that's where I was, soaked, scared, and placing my fate in the hands of someone I had never met in my life. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and really think, if you were in my shoes, desperate and unsure, would you trust a stranger who happened to ride by? What would you have done? When I finally managed to explain what had happened, he didn't rush me or act annoyed. He climbed off his horse and slowly approached, making sure not to startle me. He examined the broken wagon, then handed me his coat, insisting I needed it more than he did. He told me his name was Caleb, a rancher from a nearby settlement. He said he'd seen the storm and decided to check the trail for travelers who might have gotten stuck. I didn't know whether to believe him, but there was something steady in his voice that eased the tightness in my chest. Caleb helped me gather what little we could salvage. Then he knelt beside me, looking me directly in the eyes, and promised we'd search for my parents together as soon as the storm cleared. For the first time since everything shattered, I felt a fragile thread of hope. We spent the night under a makeshift shelter he built from canvas and broken wagon boards. He kept the fire small but warm, and he talked just enough to keep me from spiraling into panic, telling stories about ranch life, stubborn horses, and the time he accidentally scared himself, thinking his own shadow was a bear. The next morning, with the sky finally clear, we rode out to search. It took hours, and my heart pounded with every hill we crossed. But eventually, we found tracks, fresh ones, and not long after, we found my parents. Exhausted, shaken, but safe. They had gone searching for me in the storm, gotten disoriented, and sheltered under an outcropping of rocks until dawn. The moment we saw each other again, I ran into their arms with a burst of relief, so strong it made my knees weak. They thanked Caleb again and again, and he just tipped his hat like it was nothing. I still think about that day, the fear, the storm, the loneliness, and the unexpected kindness that changed everything. It reminded me that sometimes help comes from the places you least expect, and trusting someone isn't always a mistake. If you felt I did the right thing trusting him like this video, subscribe for more stories like this and share your final thoughts in the comments. I'll see you all in the next story.